This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 183, How to Tip from Scarcity to Abundance, Part 1, by Steve Pavlina of stevepavlina.com. I am your narrator, Dan, welcoming you to another edition of Optimal Finance Daily. Of course, this is the podcast where I read to you 5 days a week from the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And today is the start of a 3-part post from Steve Pavlina. It's a pretty unique one and different from the rest, so we wanted to share it here on the show. Steve actually did climb himself out of a huge hole and is qualified to talk about turning your life around. So hopefully you find a lot of value in this post over the next 3 days. And before we jump in, just wanted to remind you that if you'd like to help keep this podcast going, we created a page on our site called How to Help, and anything listed there goes a long way to keep this podcast on the air, so to speak. So if you want to show support, come on over to oldpodcast.com and find the How to Help page, or you can go directly to oldpodcast.com/support. We would greatly appreciate it. And now let's start this 3-part post as we optimize your life. How to Tip from Scarcity to Abundance, Part 1, by Steve Pavlina of stevepavlina.com. Quote, "You must be shapeless, formless, like water. When you pour water in a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can drip and it can crash. Become like water, my friend." Bruce Lee. Many people struggle to shift from a scarcity-based lifestyle to an abundance-based lifestyle. In this article, I'll share some of the shifts that people have experienced shortly before they reach their abundance tipping point, with the intention of helping you reach your own abundance tipping point sooner. I've also included some quotes from Bruce Lee for an extra dose of inspiration. Reclaim your dignity. Quote, "Mistakes are always forgivable if one has the courage to admit them." Bruce Lee. When people are in scarcity, they often do things that make them feel undignified. They may take actions and subject themselves to experiences they aren't proud of. When a person is about to shift into abundance, this sense of human dignity, if it was ever lost, is reclaimed. In fact, one's personal dignity becomes an important part of the vision of abundance. Being in scarcity doesn't mean you're incompetent. It doesn't mean you're unprofessional. It doesn't make you a second-class human being. Scarcity does not dictate a lowering of your self-esteem. The same year I shifted was the year I decided to stop tolerating the indignities of scarcity. Just because I was broke and in debt didn't mean that I should tolerate the abusive creditors calling me 10 times a day and trying to trick or manipulate me. Just because I was behind on rent didn't mean I had to tolerate a rude landlord. Just because I needed income didn't mean I had to subject myself to working with unethical or incompetent people. I couldn't immediately control my financial situation. It was a mess, and I knew that, but my desperation and the willingness to accept abuse were optional. Are you currently tolerating any indignities in your life? Do your friends, family, and coworkers treat you with respect, regardless of your income or employment? If you owe people money, do your creditors treat you as a mature and responsible adult? Or are you treated with shame, guilt, and derision for your situation? Realize that regardless of your current situation, you still deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. That is your right as a human being, but you must be willing to enforce that right if people try to violate it. Reclaiming your dignity also means refusing to beat yourself up, even when you've made mistakes. You do not have to stoop over just because some aspects of your life haven't been working so well. Forgive yourself for any perceived failures. Stand tall once again. Do not seek shame in scarcity nor pride in abundance. Both are part of the human experience, so allow yourself to retain your humanity across the board. Reframe the scarce times. Quote, "Don't fear failure. Not failure, but low aim is the crime. In great attempts, it is glorious even to fail." Bruce Lee. Another aspect of reclaiming your dignity is to recognize that you're accumulating memories as you go through life, and those memories will be with you for a long time. You may not be able to control all the pictures that become part of your memories, but you do have control over how you frame them. If you frame your memories with resistance, you'll accumulate a stockpile of stress, which may cause you to look back on those years with regret. If you frame your memories with appreciation, you'll accumulate stockpiles of appreciation that you'll later cherish. Before people shift into abundance, they often begin to reframe their years of scarcity. They realize that framing those years with stress, frustration, and resistance wasn't such a good idea because they're filling their mind with painful memories which can't possibly do much good. So they decide to stop accumulating so much emotional baggage and to look for better ways to frame the past and present. Even if the external scarcity is to continue for a while, it makes no sense to wrap it in stress. The experiences may be necessary, but the added suffering is optional. When I look back on my scarcest years, I regret that I wrapped so much stress into them. In hindsight, it will be obvious to you as well that the stress wasn't necessary. After you've been living on the abundance side for many years, how will you look back on your scarcest years? Will they still stress you out? That would be silly if those years are in your past. You'll probably look back on those years with compassion, understanding, and maybe some nostalgia as well. You may also reflect on some of the lessons you learned during those years. If you can begin to feel such feelings now, even if you're still experiencing scarce times, it will help you to tip to abundance. Expand your definition of abundance. Hear that in tomorrow's episode. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled, How to Tip from Scarcity to Abundance by Steve Pavlina of stevepavlina.com. And we're going to continue this post in tomorrow and Friday's shows, but before we go, one last time, if you want to help keep this podcast going, you can help us by showing your support in a number of different ways, financially or otherwise. We put up a little page at oldpodcast.com/support with some ideas. It would be great if you could just take a minute out of your day to check it out and help where you can. We depend on you to keep our 3 podcasts alive, so any help is greatly appreciated. And that's going to do it for the Wednesday show. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll continue this post tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.